you get to control how many times a day, a week, or whatever it is that people actually see your ad, which is great because a lot of times when you use the other objectives for retargeting, such as conversions, you're going to notice that your frequency is going to be very high. What's up, everybody? Alvaro here from Alvaro Barrios Digital, and today I'm going to start a mini-series where I'm going to cover the various objectives in Facebook ads and break them down, when I like to use them, when I don't like to use them, and altogether the objectives that I like to avoid. So today we are going to start with the reach objective. Now, before we get into the actual reach objective, let me quickly actually go over the objectives I will not be covering in this mini-series, and I will let you know why. So here's a screenshot of all the available objectives to you inside of Facebook Ads Manager. Now, the ones I will not be covering are brand awareness, app installs, messages, catalog sales, and store traffic. So let's start with those one by one. Brand awareness. The reason I'm not covering brand awareness is because for the purpose of that objective, which is making people aware of your brand, I actually think that there's better objectives for that, such as engagement and video views, which I'll be covering later in this series. Now, as for messages, I do not use that at this point in time anymore. I used to when message ads first came out and they were all the rage a couple years ago, but they've simply gotten more complicated and, in my opinion, too risky to use because the policies and procedures around messages and what's allowed and what's not allowed are very strict, and they're actually constantly evolving. So even if you are in compliance today with your message ads, it doesn't mean you're going to be compliant tomorrow, and I know of plenty of pages that have gotten banned for violating message policies. Now, catalog sales, I don't use that, not because I don't think it's a good objective, but simply because that's specifically for e-commerce, and at this moment I do not have any e-commerce clients. And then store traffic, that's for local businesses. I do not have any local businesses clients, so I will not be covering that for that reason. I simply don't have any experience with that one. And then lastly, app installs, I will not be covering that one simply because I don't have any clients with apps. So again, I personally don't have any experience with those. So today though, we are focusing on the reach objective. As you can see here, in going back to the screenshot, it is under the awareness column, but ironically, I never use the reach objective for the purpose of awareness. I strictly use it for purposes of retargeting, and that's what I recommend for you to use today. So what is the reach objective? Before we dive into Ads Manager and I show you how I like to set up reach for retargeting, let's first give it a definition. So each of the objectives inside of Facebook ads, they all optimize on probabilities, right? Meaning if you use the conversions objective, the algorithm will get in front of people who are most likely to convert based upon probabilities. Same thing with the video views objective. The algorithm will get in front of people who are most likely to watch a video based on probabilities. Same thing with engagement, same thing with traffic, so on and so forth. The reach objective, however, it's the one objective where you're just telling Facebook, get in front of as many people as humanly possible, right? Nothing about probabilities, nothing really based upon the user's past behavior. You simply want to get in front of as many people as possible. So you're essentially telling the algorithm, ignore anything about their behaviors and their probabilities, just get in front of them. And it's actually for that reason that I love to use it for retargeting, because it ensures that I'm getting in front of everyone within my retargeting audience. If I am doing a launch for a client and we have 1,000 people opted in, I want to make sure that I get in front of all 1,000 people during the course of the launch, which is when I like to use the reach objective. The reach objective, though, it is a little bit more nuanced than the other objectives, simply because there are more features available to you in there. So that can cause a lot of confusion, but let's go ahead and dive right in, and I'll show you how I like to set up reach objectives for retargeting. Hey, and really quick, before we move on any further, if you are enjoying this video, please do me a huge favor and hit that like button. It lets me know if you actually enjoy this type of content. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. That way you don't miss any of my future videos. Now, without further ado, let's keep on going. All right, here we are inside of the Ads Manager interface. So let's go ahead and get started on creating a reach campaign for the purpose of retargeting. So go ahead and click on create just like you would for any other campaign. And of course, in this case, we are going to select reach, which is in the left-hand column under awareness. But recall, I don't actually use this for awareness purposes. I strictly use the reach objective for retargeting purposes. So now we go ahead and click continue. And then obviously in your case, you'd want to give your campaign name something very specific, but since this is just an example, I'm going to leave it there where it is. Just make sure all the other settings inside the campaign level are what you want them to be. Then down to the ad set level. So this is where things can get a little bit more nuanced, and it's also where it might be different on your screen. So let me try to clarify what I'm talking about right here. So most of what you see right here is the same at the ad set level, right? You have your daily budget, you can select your start time, you can select your end time, and then you can select your audiences right here. Like I said, I do like to use reach for retargeting, so I'm going to pick this audience right here, which is a video views audience. And then obviously for your purposes, if you want to include any other ones, do that as well. And then if necessary, modify your locations, age, and gender, etc., etc. And then if you want to, you can modify your placements. Again, that's more if you're doing something, for example, like Instagram stories. If you have a very specific ad asset for Instagram stories, then it would make sense to modify it. But if you're just doing kind of like a generic retargeting campaign, I would just leave it on all placements. Okay, so where's the difference, right? You're probably wondering, everything looks exactly the same. Where it gets different is actually up here under optimization and delivery. Now, it doesn't appear right there for everyone. That's where it can get very confusing, is that for many people, and I don't know why Facebook does this, because it's probably about 50-50 split amongst my clients, but for 50% of them, it appears right here, right underneath where it says dynamic creative. And for the other 50%, it appears at the bottom underneath placements. So just keep that in mind depending on where it actually shows up on your screen. But there's a couple of interesting things that you can do here with the reach objective. First and foremost is that you can modify your frequency cap, which is pretty cool. Meaning you get to control how many times a day, a week, or whatever it is that people actually see your ad, which is great because a lot of times when you use the other objectives for retargeting, such as conversions, you're going to notice that your frequency is going to be very high. People are maybe seeing the same ad, 3 to 4 times a day, and that could get annoying depending on what the promotion is, also depending on the time period of when you're doing the promotion, so on and so forth. But with the reach objective, you get to control how many times people actually see your ad over a given period. So typically what I like to do during a retargeting campaign, right, if there's a retargeting period that is longer, I'll do 2 impressions every 1 day. That way, I'm getting in front of them multiple times, but I'm also not being super annoying about it where they kind of get turned off, so to speak. If I'm doing a very short-term retargeting campaign, let's just say it's, a 1 to 2 day promotion for some sort of flash sale maybe or something like that, then I'll gladly increase this all the way up to 4. That way, people really, are aware of what the promotion is that's going on. So just make sure you adjust that appropriately. Just think about it from the user's perspective. You don't want to be too annoying, but also you want to make sure you show up enough times that you're very much top of mind. But like I said, it's just a very cool feature that's available inside of the reach objective. The other thing that is not necessarily unique to the reach objective, but it is where I use this the most, is the bid control. So typically the bid control is something that 99% of people, they just kind of skip over, and that's totally fine. I think in most cases people should skip over it. But in this case, I like to come in here and I like to put a really big number, let's just say like $500, right? So what am I doing by putting $500 there in my bid? I'm not going to spend $500, certainly not, for a couple of different reasons. One, I have my frequency cap, so it's literally impossible for me to hit a very high spend limit if I'm limiting the number of times that someone can see it. If I were to do, for example, something like this, like 10 impressions every 1 day, yeah, my credit card bill would be astonishingly high. But again, I'm controlling it through the frequency cap, and then don't forget that you still have your daily budget. So let me just, for example purposes, put this to 20. So what is going on here with this $500 bid control? So what's going on here is that if you, what you might not realize, for any Facebook campaign, you're entering an auction. You don't really see what's going on, but in the background, there's an auction where you're placing a bid, and then all the competitors in the space are placing a bid to get their ad in front of whoever it is that you're targeting. In this case, our video views audience, right? But you want to make sure that you are at the top of the line for that auction. There's a lot of things that go into who gets shown what ad, but your bid is one of them. So since this is a retargeting campaign, and ideally this is probably a shorter term promotion, a couple days, maybe up to a week, then you want to make sure that you're doing everything possible to be at the very top of that auction, that you're always beating out your competition. And so the best way to do that is to put a really, really high bid control. So in this case, what I'm telling Facebook is that I'm willing to pay $500 for every 1,000 impressions right here. Now, that's never going to happen. At least I've never seen it happen. You will have an expensive CPM, more expensive than you typically are probably used to, but it's certainly not going to reach $500. Again, you're just giving yourself all the chances and probabilities for you to be first in line and win that auction and get in front of people. And then from there, everything else is the same, right? There's nothing different or unique that you do at the ad level per se. You set up your ads just like you would normally. It's really at the ad set level where you're making certain changes that are different from other objectives. So hopefully that made sense to you. All right, and there you have it. So hopefully this video was of value to you, and you now know how to use the reach objective, and you can start utilizing it to optimize your retargeting campaigns. In the next video, I'm going to cover the traffic objective, so be sure to tune in for that. In the meantime, if you have any questions about the reach objective specifically, just let me know in the comments below. Here are 2 more videos for you to check out. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time.